everybody, Ellen here. Today I come to you guys with a new book haul. I haven't hauled anything in a while. I haven't really been buying that too many books each month. I think some months I didn't even buy any books, and then some maybe I've bought more than I should have, because my goal was to buy half the amount of books that I've actually read, and for the most part that went very well. And like I said, sometimes I didn't buy anything, sometimes I bought a little bit more, so it evens out. It's fine. Okay, so I think the last time I did a book haul was November, December, somewhere around there. So this is basically all the books I have bought since then, which is 18 books, which is not too bad. And yeah, let's get started. One of the first books I bought this year is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I've heard so many great things about her books, and I don't really know anything about them. I just know it's supposed to be fantasy, there's supposed to be magic, and there's supposed to be like this sort of drug that makes you being able to wield jade, and then there's this war, and that's like all I know, but it sounds wicked, and I know people are really liking the series. I got a book just because my friend Jamie was nagging on me about it. So I bought Black Sambareka by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is supposed to be nominated by Hugo, Nebula and Locus Award. So it's nominated for a lot of awards. And this one says, "A god will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun." So basically, gods will return to earth and shit happens, and that's like all I want to know, because that sounds awesome and I love gods. I have a couple of classics, because I went to the science fiction store, which is my favorite bookstore, and I went there a few times and I bought classics like every time, and even the girl in the register told me that one of them was a really good read, and you know, good taste, really. Anyways, the first one is Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, and this is the, I think they call it Cloud something editions, Word Cloud Classics, and it's sort of this very soft flexi-bound kind of feeling to the cover, and then there's a lot of quotes from the book, like "Thou knowest, my friend, what my mother used to say, that one must live long to see much." Or so, sometimes proportion may be as good as promotion. Under a bad cloak there's often a good drinker. So this is a classic. Obviously I've never read it, and wow, that text is so small. Okay, headaches commence. I don't really know much about this, but this is supposed to be sort of like a like this writer who runs around with being a knight or something, and he ends up fighting like this windmill or something, and also he has his servant with him on a donkey, and you know, they're wondering what the hell's happening, something like that. I'm sorry, I really should have read this by now, but I haven't, and I just bought this like last week, so I really look forward to this one. Next one I actually read a few years ago when I was like 17, 18 or something, but that is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This is a very macabre book, and it's horrifying at points, but it looked so cool, I just had to get it, and it has deckled edges, and this is basically about a bunch of boys ending up on this island, and they're trying to survive, but boys can be mean, and they were horrible to each other, and possibly some people ends up dying because they're literally boys on a deserted island, and shit happens, and like you can tell from the like cover, blood happens. But it's a really good read, even though it's very morbid and bloody. But yeah, I really want to reread this one because it's been a while. And then we have Word Cloud Classics again, and this is Test of the Uberbill by Thomas Hardy. Never read anything by him either. One of the quotes is, "The beauty of ugliness of a character lay not only in its achievements, but in its aims and impulses. Its true history lay not among things done, but among things willed. Beauty to her, as to all who have felt, lay not in the thing, but in what the thing symbolized." I really like this cover, it's just because of the marvelous quotes. So never read this one either. This actually has a much bigger text, grateful for that, but just look at those end papers, so pretty. But it says on the back, Never in her life, she could swear it from the bottom of her soul, had she ever intended to do wrong. Yet these hard judgments had come. Whatever her sins, they were not sins of intention, but of inadvertence. And why should she have been punished so persistently? And then we have the Odyssey by Homer, and I think this is the cloth-bound leather edition by Barnes & Noble, yes. And, I mean, everybody know about the Odyssey. It's take place after the War of Troy, and they're trying to get home, but shit goes awry. And on the back it says, "Tell me, O muse, of that ingenious hero travelled far and wide after he sacked the famous town of Troy." So I really want to read this one, and look at those images and the end papers. I'm building my classics library, and I really should be reading some so I can actually put them on my books I've read shelves. We're working on it. So yeah, those were all the classics I bought. So let's move on to the next really unorganized part of the pile. So we have the Extraordinaries by T.J. Klune. I really liked the House in the Cerulean Sea by him, even though it's been a little bit controversial about the origin of the story. This is about Nick Bell, and he is the most popular fiction writer in the Extraordinaries fandom. Oh yeah, and he has ADHD, and he has some very beloved heroes he writes about. So he wants to become extraordinary himself. So I think they get like superpowers or something. He wants to become one at least. We'll see how it goes with that. But yeah, really look forward to this one because his books are so quick paced. Now we have a book I should have owned and read years and years ago, but I'm going to rectify it now. And this is the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien, and this is edited by his son Christopher Tolkien. And this is surprisingly tiny compared to his other books. This one I think takes place before The Lord of the Rings. So this is recounting the epic struggle between good and evil in the ancient Middle Earth, and there's supposed to be like the history of some rebellion of Fëanor, and we're supposed to come across characters. Elrond and Galadriel took part in these events, so I guess we're going to run across those. And I'm currently rereading Lord of the Rings because I read it like 12 years ago, so I'm trying to reread it, and when I'm done with the trilogy and possibly The Hobbit as well, which is also reread, then I move on to this one. Then we have Dawn Shard by Brandon Sanderson. This is from the Stronghold Archive. I actually had this like on an ebook from Scribd, but I never ended up reading it because it was like on my phone. And now it's in physical format, so I have to read it so I can put it on my beautiful Brandon Sanderson shelves. This is supposed to take place between Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, which is book 3 and 4 in the Stronghold Archives, so I don't really want to say anything about what this is about, but we get to follow some characters from that series and go sort of on an expedition to this island, and shit goes awry. So I really should be reading this one because I should have read it before I read Rhythm of War, but I couldn't resist to just dive right into that one because that's a masterpiece. And then I also promised myself I wouldn't buy books from authors whose books I already own but haven't read yet, which is like the second time I failed in this haul because I also bought a TJ Klune book I shouldn't have bought. But this is Gallant by V.E. Schwab, and it's just so beautiful. And this is supposed to be like very, very dark, and like you can see by this very broken thingy, which I should remove. This is actually signed, and it's so exciting when you find that in Swedish stores. It's not often that we get signed books by authors who actually hasn't been in the country or the city, you know, so this was very exciting when I saw it, and that's why I couldn't stop myself from purchasing it, because I need to own a signed Victoria Schwab book. But we meet this girl named Olivia, and she gets invited to this house, and there's some weird shit going on, and she actually walks past this sort of wall, I think, and then she realizes a different version of the house with like ghosts and shit in it, and she has to decide if she wants to be on the ghost side of it or the normal side, and decide if she wants to take over the house after her, I think it was her uncle died or something. So it's very dark, sort of mystical kind of read, and it's so short, so I just feel like I should read it. But it's also a little bit cool, like them done like it looks like it's from a book and stuff. So I really should be reading some of these books because they're so short. Then we have a book that I've technically already listened to these novellas on Audible, so it doesn't really add to my TBR. Now that's it. But this is the like bind-up collection of the Skyward Flight novellas by Brandon Sanderson and Jancy Patterson. So we get to follow, this contains the novellas Sunridge, Read On and Evershore. So we get to follow FM, Alanique and what's his face, Jorgen, in the different novellas. And I listened to the audiobooks and they were really, really good. And I think I liked FM's the most because we didn't really know that much about her. But yeah, this is a hunker, but like I said, I've already read them, so it's fine. I just need to put them next to my, you know, Skyward Flight series. And that's all I want to say because I don't want to spoil anything. But in the original series, we follow Spencer, and she wants to be on this flight academy, so she actually tries to attend the school and go through the tests and everything like that. But it turns out it's really hard for her to get accepted to the school because her father was deemed a coward and he was one of the best pilots that actually worked there. But yeah, she ends up getting into the academy and shit goes down and they have to try to save the planet from sort of these alien creatures, and shit goes down. Very, very good series, if I may say so. We have one really, really beautiful book, and it's this beauty. Do you guys see how shiny it is? Like with the gold. But this is 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and honestly I just couldn't help myself when I saw it in person. But it says in the back, Princess in Exile, a shape-shifting dragon, 6 enchanted cranes, and an unspeakable curse. It will take more than magic to find their way home. Honestly, Princess in Exile, shapeshifters, dragons, curses, I'm sold. That's like all I need to know, honestly. We have some picture books because I'm a preschool teacher and that's what I do. I live off these books all day, every day at work. So we have these which are in the same series. I actually have 2 more at work, so I don't have them to show right now. But we have Kommunusiken and Fantasiken by Sofia Rådström. These don't actually add to my TBR because I've read both of these books like 1,000 times probably by now, but they're really cute. They're in verse, so if you know Swedish you should definitely buy them because they're amazing and hilarious, and they're really funny even for us adults. No matter how many times you read them, I still love them, which happens to like 0 of the other books I read. After 10 times I'm over it. So yeah, these are really funny. And then I was actually on this sort of spa weekend with some of my work friends, and we went to Ullared, which is basically this big like shopping mall, and it's enormous, and I've never been, even though everybody in Sweden basically have been except me. But yeah, I ended up finding this book, I Babblarnas Spillboard, and this is by Tissel and Vik Edman, and this is basically a picture book as well. It's with the characters called Babblarna. This is sort of it's a very good series because it's about Babblarna, and you're supposed to be very good to help your kid learn how to speak and how to like put their tongue to pronounce different words and stuff. And they are very, very effective when it comes to learning languages and stuff. But there was just a lot of things that was really hilarious in this book if you're an adult and actually get like the hidden meaning. And I don't know if that was their intent, to be funny for the adults too by having hidden meanings. But we definitely laughed a lot while reading this one. So I just had to buy it just because. I have a book I should have read the minute I got home, but I have to reread the first 2 books because reasons, and also it was a long time I read them. But this is Vinnarna by Fredrik Backman. This is the 3rd and final book in the series called Bierstad trilogin, and I love Fredrik Backman. He is like the most like awkward, snuggly little bear you can ever meet in person, because I have met him and I just wanted to support him. And this is a hunker of a book. Like, I don't even know, I think it is like 711 pages. Awesome, but it's gonna be worth it because it's gonna be awesome. So I don't really want to say too much about this series since this is the 3rd book, but in the 1st book basically there's this girl that is raped. They live in this sort of small Swedish town, and nobody believes the girl that she was raped because the guy that did it is like the most popular guy like ever. So everybody ends up taking sides, and that of course does not go well for the girl. And it's basically basically around that, and it's so good. And I really don't care about hockey at all, and there's a lot of hockey references and hockey games and stuff like that in this series, and Bachman just makes it so interesting and worthwhile. So even though if you hate like hockey or sports or whatever, you're gonna love this series anyways. And I don't know if the third book is out in English yet, but the first book and the second book I think is out, at least Bear Town, the first one. So you should definitely pick up this series and, you know, support Swedish authors. And then I am trying to at least to continue on the series I've already started, so this will be good for that. But this is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is the third. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or if there's more books coming. I don't really know. But it's very beautifully purple. I love that. So I don't want to spoil anything. But this is the third and final book. But in the first book we meet, oh, what's her face? We meet Rin, and she is adopted by these like horrible people. She's been living with them for years, and they're like using her, treating her really badly and everything like that. And she ends up studying to be able to change her life. She wants to get, you know, access to this sort of military academy. She wants to go to school there, and she works her ass off to get there. And she goes to the military academy, learns how to fight, how to protect herself, how to use magic and everything like that. And it's so kick-ass. And the second book is so freaking horrendously gory that, like, don't read before you go to bed, which is what's my mistake, because I couldn't fall asleep afterwards. It's very graphic, but it's a really good series, and I really should just finish it up because I loved it so much, and I feel like I'm forgetting details as we speak. But yeah, I really love the series. And then we have A Time of Courage by John Gwynne. This is actually the third book in the series. In my wrap up for the previous few months, I was talking about the first book which I'd read and the fact that I couldn't find book 2 because it was sold out. Well, this is book 3, so I can't really read this one yet, but I do want to, but it's a hunger. But this is the third book in Of Blood and Bone trilogy. And this basically, and the first book basically takes place a few hundred years after the Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne, and we get to follow the Benalim, which is basically like angels and also sort of demons and also humans. And this is basically what happens after like the whole war thing in the first series. It's really kick-ass, it's awesome, it's such a quick read, and I just love John Gwynne's way of building characters, and the fact that you get to follow like the good characters and the bad characters, because you get like such a broader perspective about the characters and why they're doing the way they're doing it, and like their decision making and everything like that. And the world building is amazing as well, and I just really want to get my hands on the second book so I can continue it. But yeah, if you haven't read John Gwynne yet, just freaking do, you will not regret it. So yeah, those were all of the books I bought so far this year, which is weird to think about because while recording this, it's May, and that's weird. Anyways, if you've read any of these books, please let me know down below what you thought about them, without spoiling of course. And yeah, I hope we see each other in the next one. Bye!